beneath the burning sun of Dubai, where glass towers shimmer like mirages rising from the desert, a royal motorcade arrived at the gates of a palace. From it stepped a young woman whose presence seemed to carry centuries, Queen Ngā Wai Hono ETP, the newly anointed Māori monarch of New Zealand. At just 27, she had inherited a legacy steeped in spiritual power, resilience, and identity, a leadership born not of privilege, but of purpose. Waiting for her was Sheikha Latifa bint Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, one of the most influential women in the United Arab Emirates, known for her grace, intellect, and cultural vision. What unfolded inside that palace would not just be a diplomatic meeting. It would become a conversation between civilizations, between ancestral wisdom and modern ambition, between two crowns that stood as symbols of how tradition can meet transformation. Welcome to Mr. Darkman TV. I'm Zainab Sabir, and today we bring you a story that transcends borders and time. The extraordinary encounter between Her Highness Sheikha Latifa of Dubai and the 27-year-old Māori Queen of New Zealand, Ngā Wai Hono ETP. It's a meeting that bridged the vast Pacific and the Arabian Peninsula. A union of cultures, spirituality, and vision. It's not just about two monarchs. It's about two worlds recognizing each other in a moment of deep respect and shared destiny. Before we dive deeper, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Darkman TV. Stay with us till the end of this video as we unfold the meaning behind Between Two Crowns. A story of unity, renewal, and the strength of women shaping the world stage. The palace in Dubai was alive with sunlight that morning. Its marble floors gleamed, its halls filled with quiet anticipation. The Māori Queen, dressed in garments blending modern elegance with indigenous symbolism, stepped through the courtyard. Her cloak, embroidered with subtle tribal motifs, represented her Bhakpapa. Her lineage, her people, her ancestors. Each step echoed with the weight of history. The echo of Haka, the pulse of ancient chants, the memory of generations who fought to preserve Māori identity in a world that often tried to erase it. She was greeted by Her Highness Sheikha Latifa bint Mohammed, daughter of Dubai's ruler and chairperson of the Dubai Culture and Arts Authority. Known for her progressive leadership and deep passion for art and heritage, Sheikha Latifa welcomed the Queen not as a visitor, but as a sister in sovereignty. Their handshake was brief, but their eyes conveyed what words could not. The understanding that both bore the duty to protect culture, empower their people, and honor the past while building the future. As the two leaders entered the grand reception hall, gold filigree glimmered under the chandeliers, and delicate incense filled the air. The atmosphere was both regal and intimate. Over an exquisitely prepared lunch. A blend of Emirati spices, New Zealand lamb, and fusion delicacies. Their conversation flowed naturally, transcending formality. Queen Ngā Wai Hono spoke of Venya. The sacred connection of Māori people to their land. And of her mission to strengthen indigenous governance, revitalize the Māori language, and inspire young leaders to reclaim pride in their heritage. She spoke with the conviction of one who had lived both tradition and modernity. A scholar with a Master of Arts in Tikanga Māori, and a woman who bore the sacred Moko Koa on her chin, a mark of identity and honor that symbolized her bond to her ancestors. Sheikha Latifa listened attentively, occasionally smiling with admiration. She responded by sharing how the UAE, though young as a nation, has anchored itself in deep cultural roots. From preserving Bedouin traditions to elevating Arabic arts and literature. She explained how Dubai's journey mirrors the desert's nature, resilient, adaptable, and luminous. Her projects, from art residencies to heritage preservation initiatives, were reflections of her belief that nations must not lose their soul while reaching for the stars. The discussion soon expanded beyond their own worlds. They spoke of shared challenges. Climate change, threatening ancestral lands and deserts alike, the preservation of languages, the empowerment of women in leadership, and the role of education in preserving cultural identity. They found common ground in their understanding that true development cannot come at the cost of heritage. For both leaders, sustainability was not just ecological, it was cultural. Then came the exchange of gifts, a moment thick with symbolism. The Māori queen presented a small, hand-carved Kwavhai panel, its spirals depicting the Māori journey through time. It was not just art, it was Bhakpapa carved into wood, carrying the essence of her people's story. Sheikha Latifa accepted it with grace, pressing her hand over her heart before offering a silk scarf woven in Dubai, its falcon patterns representing freedom and vision. When she draped it over the queen's shoulders, the gesture transcended diplomacy. It was two worlds embracing each other with mutual respect. Outside, the desert wind carried whispers of history. For centuries, the Māori had resisted colonization, maintaining their sovereignty under the Kingitanga movement. And here, in the heart of the Arab world, their queen found recognition not through politics, but through shared values. It was a spiritual symmetry. A reminder that indigenous leadership and Middle Eastern royalty, though born of different soils, share the same foundation: mana, honor, and legacy. As afternoon light filtered through the palace windows, the women stood side by side on a balcony overlooking lush gardens. For a brief moment, there was silence. Not of absence, but of understanding. The queen spoke softly in Te Reo Māori, "May our paths intertwine." The Sheikha responded in Arabic, "And may our children know that we reached across continents for respect and kinship." They smiled, and in that exchange, history felt less divided. To sovereigns, to nations, one story. When the queen departed that evening, she carried with her more than diplomatic notes or policy frameworks. She carried a spark, the beginning of a cultural alliance that could reshape how nations think about cooperation. This was the dawn of indigenous global dialogue at its finest. Respectful, creative, and rooted in humanity. The meeting between Sheikha Latifa and Queen Ngā Wai Hono e Tepi was more than ceremonial grandeur. It was an embodiment of soft power, female diplomacy, and cultural renewal. Both women represent new chapters in their nation's histories. Not merely inheritors of titles, but active architects of modern leadership rooted in identity. For the Māori queen, her ascension at a time of political tension in New Zealand, when indigenous institutions are under pressure, marks a defining moment. Her youth, education, and visibility symbolize a generation that refuses to let the past fade into silence. With her Moko Koa as both statement and prayer, she reclaims the sacred and makes it visible in the global arena. For Sheikha Latifa, this encounter reflects the UAE's strategic vision, investing not only in technology or trade, but in culture as a universal language. By engaging with indigenous communities, the UAE demonstrates a forward-thinking approach that places heritage alongside progress. Her leadership is reshaping the global narrative of the Middle East. From oil wealth to cultural wealth, from opulence to openness. The meeting also carries deep geopolitical resonance. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement (CEPA) between the UAE and New Zealand, now including dedicated indigenous collaboration clauses, symbolize how cultural identity and trade can coexist and even strengthen one another. It's a rare moment where global diplomacy honors indigenous knowledge systems rather than marginalizing them. From a broader perspective, this event also highlights the emergence of female-led cultural diplomacy. In a world often dominated by male political figures, the image of two women powerful, poised, and purposeful redefining how nations connect sends a global message. Their dialogue wasn't about dominance, but understanding, not about competition, but coexistence. The title, Between Two Crowns, thus becomes profoundly symbolic. It's not about rivalry or comparison, but complementarity. One crown forged in desert gold, the other carved from ancestral wood. Both glint under the same sun, reflecting the truth that leadership is not defined by conquest, but by compassion, by the ability to bridge worlds. This historic encounter shows that culture, when used as diplomacy, can heal, connect, and inspire. In an age of political tension and cultural homogenization, This meeting reminds us that the most powerful revolutions are the quiet ones carried by art, heritage, and women who know that the heart of a nation beats strongest when its traditions and dreams move in rhythm. As night fell over Dubai and the Queen's plane lifted into the twilight sky, one couldn't help but feel that something rare had just occurred. The world had witnessed a sacred dialogue, a whisper between two legacies, echoing across oceans and deserts. The Māori Queen carried her people's spirit into new lands, and Sheikha Latifa extended the warmth of the Arab world beyond borders. It was not politics, it was poetry in motion, the world's oldest truth reborn, that respect, art, and faith can unite what distance divides. This is Zainab Sabir, and you've been watching Mr. Darkman TV. If this story inspired you, if you believe in the power of culture, connection, and the voices of women shaping tomorrow, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more stories that touch the soul and challenge the mind. Because sometimes, true power doesn't wear armor or raise flags. It walks quietly between two crowns.